You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by Amac, the Association of Mature American Citizens.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber, and this is your Amac podcast, Better for America. On today's show, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Carol Swain. She is an award-winning political scientist, author, public speaker, and political commentator. Dr. Swain has published many opinion pieces for numerous newspapers, including papers like the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Times, and USA Today. And Dr. Swain hosts her own podcast titled Conversations with Dr. Carol Swain. And she has had some amazing conversations with thought leaders from around the country. We'll learn more how you can visit and listen to that podcast. And I also want to point out that Dr. Swain has a new book. It'll be available to all of you in August, and it's titled Black Eye for America, How Critical Race Theory is Burning the House Down. Also, Dr. Swain served a critical role as vice chair of the President's Advisory 1776 Commission to support the spread of what former President Donald Trump called a patriotic education. So with that being said, I'm pleased to welcome this incredible woman, Dr. Carol Swain, to our show. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Well, thank you. There's so much I want to talk with you about today, and I know our listeners are very intrigued. We are in awe of your background, and you have accomplished so much in your lifetime. So here at AMAC, we applaud you for your perseverance to achieve so many goals and dreams. I just want to, so people can get to know you a little bit better, Dr. Swain, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and some of the key, motivating factors that really led you down a career path in politics to where you are today?
I can tell you that my story is an American story. I have been able to attain the American dream. I was one of 12 children born and raised in rural poverty in southwestern Virginia. The early part of my life was spent in a two-room shack. The older children slept on the kitchen floor until my stepfather expanded the house to 4 rooms. The poverty was, it was no indoor plumbing. When it snowed, we didn't have proper clothes, and so we stayed home until the snow melted. And so that meant that we missed a lot of school. And I married at 16, had my first child at 17. By the time I was 21, I had 3 small children. And people came into my life and encouraged me. And Rebecca, they were people that did not look like me. They were not the same race as me, but they encouraged me. One was. Encouraged me, to get an education and to make more of my life. And so I went, first I got a high school equivalency, and then I went to a community college and got the first of 5 college and university degrees. I never sought to become a university professor, but I ended up on that track, became a tenured professor at Princeton University, won national prizes, including the highest prize a political scientist can win, the Woodrow Wilson Prize for Best Book on public policy and politics. And I've been cited by the U.S. Supreme Court and won national awards. But then later in life, I had a Christian conversion experience. It changed my life. And so I went from being a hotshot to becoming a pariah.
Well, that is just a beautiful story. And it brings so much hope, I think, to people. Your bio, it stands in direct opposition of critical race theory, also known as CRT. Now, critical race theory divides people based on race. I'd love for you to share with our listeners how and why critical race theory is harmful to the intellectual and psychological development of children in our schools. What do parents and grandparents need to know?
Well, first of all, I want to tell you that my book that will be released in early August is for parents, because I got so many emails and phone calls from parents and teachers that were grappling with the issue and trying to figure out what to do. And so I teamed up with another person, and we wrote a book, Black Eye for America, how critical race theory is burning down the house being America. And in that book, we define what critical race theory is, because it changes forms. In someone's school, it may be called cultural competency or educational equity, as social justice. It has so many different forms. So we have chapters on what it is, where it came from. It has Marxist roots. It is Marxism, and it divides the world into oppressors and the oppressed. And according to the critical race theory narrative, all white people are oppressors because of the color of their skin. They have a property interest in whiteness, and they are told, and only white people are told this, that they have to become anti-racist and divest themselves of their whiteness. Now think about this. First of all, we should all be anti-racist, and it should apply to every group. And so if they say Americans should be anti-racist, hey, I'm on board with that for all of us. But to single out one group, to say that they have a property interest in their whiteness, their skin color, we know that no one gets to choose their parents, their race, their nationality. All of these are things that we don't get to choose.
Right.
But to single out one race and say that white people, because of the color of their skin, that they are oppressors, and that all minorities, especially blacks, are victims, that is like the worst form of racism. And in our book, we show that critical race theory is Marxist, is anti-American, because in America, we don't bully and shame people because of the color of their skin. We know not to do that. It runs counter to our civil rights laws and the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution and just human decency. And the book ends with 2 chapters on how we can fight back. And one of the ways that we can fight back, and people are doing this all across the country, is that we have to inform ourselves about what we're dealing with. And critical race theory started in the law schools back in the 1970s. It's been around for a long time. And it sort of worked its way through the colleges and universities and into the schools of education. And now it is affecting every sector of our society. And it is racist. It is evil. And it's worked its way into some of our churches under the guise of social justice. And we know, those of us who are Christian believers, and I know that's not everyone, we believe that God created one race, the human race, and that we are all equal before God. And that Christian believers, we should not be pointing to the past and holding grudges against our brothers and sisters. Jesus said, by our love, they will know us. And for members of racial and ethnic groups, we are to extend the forgiveness that the Bible talks about. And when we're dealing with white people, the white people in front of us are not people that held slaves. Many of them most of them were not descendants of slaves. And many of them were offsprings of abolitionists, white philanthropists, immigrants, people that had nothing to do with racism. And so critical race theory is evil, it's destructive, it's un-American, it's unconstitutional, it runs counter to our civil rights laws, and we all need to organize to stop it.
I appreciate you delivering such a strong message there. I think you've said it best. It is all of those things, Dr. Swain, and it is really, in my opinion, as a Christian woman, it is anti-God, because you've got to ignore the fact that we're all God's children to buy their story. It's hard to for me anyway, to really wrap my brain around what they're trying to say. For example, there's a book that the left is really pushing. I believe Ibram Kendi, How to Be an Anti-Racist. And even in my own family, where we've got some teachers have said, hey, I read this book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. And it saddened me because I thought, oh my goodness, these are really great people that are good teachers, that have a good heart, that are being pushed by their unions, encouraged to read these books. You yourself are a published author, and you understand, how books can really influence society. So what is your opinion on the left's narrative that America is systemically racist? Because that is another argument that we're hearing, that America is systemically racist. Your thoughts? Well,
first of all, I have to say that Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility, and there are white pastors and various white people that they're making a lot of money off of this particular moment, as well as Kendi. And these ideas are ideas that are nothing but indoctrination. They're not based on data. Critical race theory is a theory. It's not a fact. It doesn't stand up to research principles that have been standard, the scientific method. And it's all about emotions and feelings. And when it comes to teachers who read, books like Kendi's book, I mean, they would have to suspend their brain and thinking to go along with it, because he says that we should discriminate against people. And he believes that white people should be discriminated against. And our nation has values and principles. We know, how to treat other human beings. And so the very idea that whether you're a teacher or a pastor or just a regular person that has no particular role, you're just going about your life, those ideas are wrong. They don't make sense, and that we need to stand up and push back against it. Now, I understand how teachers are in schools where this stuff is coming from the top. It may be coming from principals. It may be coming from the school board, and certainly from the unions. You have to organize with other people and not suspend your brain and your common sense. Think about your children. Do you think it's okay to introduce children as young as pre-K to race? And those ludicrous arguments that babies, by the age of 3 to 6 months, that babies can be racist. That's based on someone's, I hate to say it, but stupid research that babies favor certain faces above others. Now, if I'm a baby, and this doesn't take a whole lot of, this is not deep, but if I'm a baby, I'm going to favor those faces that are feeding me, that are changing my diapers. And I think that if babies do favor certain faces and people more than others, that's probably instinctual. It has to do with survival, because you think about human nature or human beings, we are tribal in some ways. And so you have to have innate, safety measures. And so it just makes sense that babies would favor those that they see around them. And this whole thing of teaching racism to children, they want our children to see race. And most of us, when we were children, we had friends, we played with our friends, and we didn't notice that our friends, were a different race. They are consciously trying to teach kids K through 12, as well as pre-kindergarten, to see race. And you think about what could possibly go wrong? Everything. Because right now, if you are a little child and you're playing, and your friend, is a bully, or you run into a bully that's a different race, you just know that Billy or Jane or Sally, that they're a bully, that they're mean. But if you teach them to see race, they're going to associate negativity with that person, because they're going to see that person's race and not see them as an individual. So plenty could go wrong from what they're doing as they experiment with our children.
Yes, and I do think that, folks that are listening, we here at Amac, we have been working very hard to educate as many Americans as possible. But it's really the people listening. It's the parents and teachers and the teachers that recognize that this is dangerous for their classroom, parents that are concerned, grandparents that are so involved in their grandchildren's lives, more so today, it seems, with often two working parents. I see how much grandparents do and how important they are in our children's lives. It's important that we know about these damaging concepts of critical race theory, because the left is pushing this ideology and it's influencing America. So I'm just going to encourage people to check out our website. We want to put your book up on our website. We have a critical race theory landing page with lots of information. So I really want everyone listening to get their hands on your newest book, Black Eye for America, How Critical Race Theory is Burning the House Down. This is so important that we have the tools and the knowledge. So I want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Dr. Swain, I want to shift and speak to you about media censorship, because in another recent interview, you mentioned how Facebook had shadow banned you. Now, for anyone who's listening who doesn't know what shadow banning is, it occurs when a social media site bans a user or bars a user from sharing their posts and comments without the user's knowledge. So it seems to me, Dr. Swain, that you were not probably, in my opinion, you were targeted. Can you tell me why?
Yes.
Do you know why?
Yes, I've been targeted more than once by Facebook. But I just want to say another thing about the harm of critical race theory.
Please.
There's a lot of research, psychological research about the damages to children from shaming and bullying. And so parents that are trying to sit on the sidelines, they want to play the fence. You should be your child's strongest advocate. And this is damaging to them. And so you have to be involved. Now, Facebook. The first time that Facebook, the most recent time they went after me was in the spring, I had announced that I was going to do a Facebook Live with my supporters because there's a way you can have supporters. And then like the next day, I was notified that I was being suspended from Facebook Live for 30 days based on a post that I had shared in 2019 that had the House of Representatives the Democrats dressed in Klansmen outfits. You know, it's funny. It was a meme. I didn't create it. I shared it. They used that to shut me down for 30 days. And they went back to 2019. And this was like May of this year. So that was one time. And then July 5th. And I don't know if this is related to the fact that I was on Fox and Friends that morning, and I was talking about critical race theory, and I said the Democrats own it, and usually when I'm talking, I don't call out a political party unless I have to, but I said it. Well, later that day, I noticed that on my public Facebook page, which is Dr. Carol M. Swain, Doc Carol M. Swain, I have 77,000 followers. And the number almost never grows. It sort of stays there. So I don't know how many people actually see my page. But I had posted several things that day, and I noticed that there were no interactions, no likes, no nothing. And that continued for almost 7 days. But during that time, like, I scream and I yell using the platforms that I have. And so I went on Twitter and I shared the screenshots of the fact that there were no interactions, that people were not seeing those posts. And then I went to the media and they published an article. The Tennessee Star did an article, and the Star is part of a network of conservative newspapers. They're in many states now. But once the Star published their article about what was happening to me, they had pretty much lifted it before, but a few days before the Star published the article. But I'm not having a problem at this moment. But with Facebook, with Twitter, with YouTube, with Google, I mean, they're big tech agencies. They target conservatives. And I've had people say, well, why do you stay on those platforms? Or why don't you, go and they name all of these conservative startups? Well, I don't want to preach to the choir. I want to reach as many people as I can. And I think that it's important that we don't abandon the liberal outlets. And so I'm on the conservative sites, but I'm also going to stay on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of those places until they kick me off.
Good for you. And I applaud you for standing strong and shining a light on what's happening. I often think to myself, I hear a lot of Black Lives Matter. They should really be caring about your message here and protecting you, or at least also getting on your side and saying, hey, we can't silence this woman who's so well accomplished and has a very important message for America. Funny how those folks aren't showing up, so that's got to raise some eyebrows. Doctor, you had the incredible opportunity to serve as the vice chair on a major project titled the 1776 Report. And I personally read the entire report and have recommended it to many people. I mean, it really is an incredibly well-written and such an informative piece. Yet on his first day in office, President Biden put forth an executive order to disband former President Trump's 1776 commission. That was shocking to me. I thought, why? History is history. And why would a sitting president want to take something like that down? I mean, I read through the whole report. I thought it was phenomenal. So I'd like to ask you to tell us about the 1776 report and what it aims to convey and your involvement.
First of all, President Trump started in the fall of 2020 first to do an executive order banning critical race theory in federal agencies. And in reaction to the 1619 New York Times study that pretty much said that America was racist at its roots, that it was founded in 1619, slavery, and that the Revolutionary War, was fought to preserve slavery. Those were the most ludicrous claims of the report, and many of those have been changed now. President Trump signed an executive order setting up the 1776 Commission, and what we were to do was to produce reports on how to teach civics and American history. And this was to prepare for the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence being signed, and that will be 2026. And so it was a 2-year commission. I actually agreed to serve in December. We had our first meeting where it was announced December 18th, 2020. By then, the election was in flux. And by then, we knew that it was very likely that the Biden administration, because they were so focused on, critical race theory and race, that we might be disbanded. So what happened is that we met on January 4th, and we worked around the clock to produce a report because we knew that we would probably be eliminated. So we were not caught by surprise. And so on January 18th, Martin Luther King's birthday, we produced the 1776 Commission report. And we, President Biden, one of his first acts of office on day one was to disband our commission. But Rebecca, I'm pleased to report that we reconstituted ourselves in May of this year because we believe, or we know that we took an oath of office to serve for 2 years, and we decided that we're going to fulfill our commission. And so what we have done since we were disbanded is that report that you read, we have reissued it as a book that has a new introduction, and it has citations because when we first produced the report, we were writing for the American people, and so we didn't have a lot of citations, and we were also getting the report out quickly. And we got attacked for not having citations. We got attacked. They accused us of not being trained historians. And, like we were award-winning, political scientists and, people from the legal field. And we were distinguished scholars, but they said we were not, quote, trained historians, whatever that means. But we have re-released a book, and Larry Arnn, the president of Hillsdale, he's the chair of that committee. I'm the vice chair, and Matthew Spalding is the executive director. So we're still very much focused on trying to convey to the American people the strengths of who we are as a nation, that, we have made mistakes, but we've always learned from our mistakes. We've always tried to better ourselves. And the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, within those documents, they had everything that was needed for slavery to be abolished, for women to get their rights, for us to get through 3 major wars, and for the civil rights movement to happen. All of that came from the fact that within America itself, that it is the greatest nation. It's been the greatest nation in the history of the world. And our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, our Judeo-Christian values and principles, the focus that we once had on families, all of these things are things that made us strong and great.
Yeah, I think it's just fabulous that you've contributed towards that 1776 report. The report is so informative. We have a team here at AMAC who's currently utilizing the report to construct a guide for departing high school seniors. We've been given the go-ahead to use elements of the report. In other words, we're just shortening it somewhat so that young ones who are leaving the household for the first time, perhaps, and going out into the world and going to be sitting in universities and college classrooms. This is some really good history. It's a reminder of who we are as an American people and our founding fathers. As you said it, they had the foresight to understand that that things change over time, but the principles that our country is really based on, that all people are created equal, and that we have the right to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. And it doesn't mention anything about skin color. And we've got to really be focused on, remember our past, the true past. And it certainly doesn't mean that we don't teach about the ugly parts of our past. And we know that racism exists, and we'll never sit there and deny that. But we've got to recognize how far we've come. And, just to mention, I think that critical race theory goes completely against Martin Luther King's dream.
It does, Rebecca. Martin Luther King has been canceled by the political left. And I'd also like to tell you and your viewers that 1776 Unites, an organization that was started by Bob Woodson of the Woodson Center before the 1776 Commission. The scholars there, many of them are African American, but not all of them. But we all believe in America. I'm part of 1776 Unites as well, and we have a curriculum. And so you might want to link to them, share that curriculum, because we are Black people. And again, we're not all Black, but there are a lot of distinguished Black people from different walks of life, including community activists who love America. And we are standing up. And we want people to be successful, and we're working across racial and ethnic lines. And so I think that the more people that understand that the critical race theorists, those Black leaders you see on TV that are so angry, they don't represent the real Black America. The real Black America are people that appreciate this nation. We know that we're blessed to be Americans.
Amen. Well, I want to thank you for your efforts in helping to construct the report. You are a stalwart defender, Dr. Swain, and you give AMAC members hope too, because you are a living testament of America's greatness. Dr. Swain, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Excellent. And to all of our listeners, I want to thank you for tuning in today. If you have not already downloaded the AMAC News app, I urge you to visit the App Store on your mobile device. Download the app now so that you can watch and listen to all of our podcasts and be kept up to date on breaking news. And please don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share this podcast wherever you stream. And lastly, folks, if you are not a member already, please visit our website at amac.us and join now to help preserve the conservative values of our country. And if you are a member, please tell your loved ones about us. Encourage them to join the AMAC family. Again, thank you all for tuning in to today's podcast. We look forward to having you back with us again next time. I am Rebecca Weber, and this is your AMAC podcast, Better for America. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Better for America podcast. To learn more about AMAC and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.